Greetings. Food needs have changed quite a bit since the Bushido 1.1 update, and now I've updated the spreadsheet and I want to update my video and take you through all of the changes that have happened to our food in Sengoku Dynasty. So let's dig in and chew on the changes. So first and foremost, how you're going to get food in this game early on is that you're going to forage and find and hunt. In the early part of the game, if you're going to choose to go slowly, you could go with a campfire first. But this is all you can make with a campfire. In order to actually cook something worthwhile, you are going to need to build your first house, and hey, once you know it, that's one of the first things you're supposed to do in the game. It's one of your first quests. So, once you have a house, you'll have a sunken hearth, and in that sunken hearth you can make quite a bit of wonderful things. It is surprising that these two are here now, because that's handy. Now, being able to craft that's a different story. You will have the early vegetable meals here, which are probably the easiest one to deal with is any vegetable and any bean, since beans are cheap and easy to buy from a trader, and also soybeans in spring. You can produce quite a few right at the start. I don't find this to be very much worthwhile. It will take you a moment before you start getting rice, and this isn't necessarily the best thing in the world, though it is in close competition with the vegetable meals. Now, when we go to the spreadsheet, I'll show you the more details on that. Your progression is going to be basically sunken hearth. You're not going to end up cooking on a campfire since it's really not worthwhile, and you build your first house rather easily. When you're at that point, making your simple vegetable meals can work. Farming will take care of the needs for getting soybeans, as you can have land fields to take care of that. You just need to end up with a soybean bag, which you can probably buy from Chiome, the priestess at Sasogi, or if you travel to Aratane, there's a farming trader that generally has that. The next major upgrade for you making food is going to be when you gain iron, and gaining iron early on is not challenging anymore. That will unlock the ability to build a campfire with a cooking pot, which honestly is not really worth it, since you can put this cooking pot inside one of your houses and get the same effect, and it just works out better. But if you prefer to have a cooking pot with a campfire, this will definitely work and get you what you need. A sunken hearth with a cooking pot, on the other hand, will allow you to do all of the same stuff. Now, this is handy. It's nice to have. It also helps that this will give you the warming effect in case it is cold outside, but any hearth will do the same thing. With all of our meals, please note that I have already paid the cost for these, but in general, there is a cost to unlocking any meals that do not immediately come with your character as you show up, which are to say, these simple ones down here are usable right from the start. Other ones you have to pay money or do certain conditions to unlock. The kitchen will be our next progression in our ability to cook quality food, and there's a couple major things that come with this. Now here we end up getting access to these specialized meals here, which we'll talk about in a bit, and then more access to meals. We get everything except excellent meals. This is a big deal. The kitchen can produce tempura. That's fantastic. You can also make all the beverages, but we had that access earlier. Making oil is easy here, and also there's the oil press that you can build when you make this facility. Keep in mind that this doesn't come automatically with the kitchen, so you will have to have a hammer out, right click, go to furniture, go to production furniture, go down to your kitchen, and then find your oil press here so that then you can build an oil press in this facility. When you hold down E, you can add your canola and your water, and then you'll get your oil from it, and it will make a good amount of oil from canola, which canola is grown in the summer. Finally, our last and most valuable of our progression in our ability to cook is the tavern. The tavern cooking station has every meal you could be looking for, and the excellent meals. The excellent meals are great because they allow you to make a lot of food needs with not as many resources in some cases, where there are certain quest lines like Ryujin's Wrath, I apologize if I said that wrong, which allows you to make a very good fish meal. And there's also the Wild Hogs quest line, which ends up getting you the excellent meat meal, which is fantastic because it requires the least amount of meat, and mushrooms are the biggest deal in this one. This meal is excellent. It costs a low amount of meat, a low amount of rice, and edible mushrooms are easy to get from your Forager's workstation. Making meals as your character is as simple as going over the cooking hearth and just making sure you have the resources. Keep in mind that if you have food in a food storage or in a general storage, that your character automatically pulls it into their inventory as they make it. So if I wanted to make a number of these vegetable meals, I can press F and I can craft as many as I have the resources to do so. And at 25 per, then I'm gaining a significant amount of meals by just making these. I can also assign a worker to a job. We can either go in by population and assign them directly. If you go by jobs, you can find them a little easier, as then it's labeled as the item you're looking for, rather than being labeled as a person. So I have a kitchen cooking pot location. I'll add a recipe to this. I can add as many recipes as I would like. So if I want to make some simple vegetable meals, perhaps I don't want to make all of them. I need a worker. Let's you. Perhaps I want to make a few of those. Maybe I want to make a little bit of oil because I'm not at the point where I'm actually making it with canola, let's say. I can drop this production down a bit, and then I can raise this one up so I can gain some meals. It'll tell me exactly how much I'll get out of my meals, and it'll also tell me how much I'm getting out of my heating. If I then also want to add more and have them make even more stuff, which tempura, look at that. 7 of them for 525. I'm making 10 of these for only 250. Tempura is fantastic. The trick is you're going to be needing oil, and if you're using oil to take care of your heating needs, then you're going to be needing to balance out the need for your oil for cooking and your oil for heating. Gaining food in this game is going to be mostly done by farming, if it happens to be rice, soybeans, or anything else that can be farmed. Herbs, vegetables, beans, these are all going to be best gotten through farming. If you choose to be a forager, you can use foraging workstations to do so, but they are less efficient. For example, if we go into this forager's workstation, I have a worker here who's getting me 50 gobo. Now, if we do the same thing, except ask a worker to have a farm plot, I am getting 180 for 20 plots worth, 20 squares worth of garden plots. You can get up to 23 by unlocking worker productivity training. This is significantly better. Farming is clearly the best way to go. And certain crops grow in certain seasons. Keep in mind you want to keep track of those rotations. Soybeans are for spring, so when you start the game out, it's good to get soybean farming started early since beans are useful. Canola counts as a bean, but it's better for making oil. And lotus seeds count as a bean. Lotus root counts as a vegetable, but lotus root is best used in your medical needs. And the lotus beans can be used for medical, but they also don't produce at a high enough rate to keep up with soybeans. Soybeans are also used for making tofu and things like that. The next most important thing you'll want to consider is getting proteins, meat-based proteins, and fish is the best way to go. Hands down, it is the best source of protein you can get in the game, because you can get 66 fish from one net, which works across seasons consistently. Nets are fantastic. You can build a ton of resources, a ton of workstations inside of your fishing hut, and getting 66 fish per worker is a lot of fish. Using a hunter's workstation, I'm getting half as much meat from this workplace. 33 meat is nothing to write home about, but it's not nothing, right? Like, it is an amount of meat and you didn't have to go hunt it. So that's something. But it's really not a lot. The best bet I would have for you here is that if you go hunting for a while, and if you unlock the skills in your legend, you go into warrior and unlock animal trophy hunter, you're going to get quite a bit of good resources. Later on, you can also get the master skinner, which is worth it. It gives you a moderate chance for additional items, and honestly, I see this thing paying off a lot. On the map, as you explore the area, you'll find hunting locations. For example, boars are excellent for hunting, and there's some right by Sasogi here in near the Injiro Rebel region. They're easy to hunt. They look at you, you shoot them right in the face, and you can take them out pretty quickly. The deer will tend to run from you. If you can get a headshot on them, they're slow afterwards, and they're easy to take down. As long as you hit their body, they tend to go slowly. Rabbits are not worth it. They're too small, so it's just not worth it. They don't give you as much meat, and aiming at them is not as easy as a boar, and the boars are really easy to get at. Wolves are okay. They're not bad. The benefit of them is that they tend to look at you and howl, and you can usually get a couple arrows off on them quickly to take them out. Otherwise, they do attack you, so that's not exactly the best. If you're looking to start farming as soon as possible, then what you need to do first is you need to build yourself a land field. With any old hammer out, you're going to go out and you're going to make sure you have sticks. Go out here, grab yourself a land plot, and make it. Honestly, if I just made that plot right there, I just would have unlocked the ability to make the shovel. Once you have the shovel, we are capable of making every land or every farming plot we could want. Once we have one shovel in our hands, we can now harvest clay, and we can also harvest any small deposit, which is kind of a fun little thing. Look at all this clay! Well, when we go into here, we can just simply look and press our use button and attack the clay directly and harvest it up. With clay, you can make a water field, and a water field is going to allow you to get rice. And rice is the most important resource for you to get early on. It is a cereal, which helps out for things. You can also make cooked rice, which is not as good as it used to be, but it's still really good. It's an easy recipe. It's handy. Once you have a bunch of clay, we can build some of those plots. You're going to need stone as well, so it's worth noting that if I go to any small deposit, hey, I just got some free stone. Let's gather up a bunch of that, and we'll be ready to make some of our water fields to take care of our farming needs. The best thing about the Enduro Rebels little hideout here is this cave. When you go into this cave, you're going to need iron to make your cooking pot. Small iron deposit, I can use a shovel to harvest this. Once I have 10 iron ore, I am able to make a cooking pot. So now here we are in the game, and this is as soon as I make my workshop. I can immediately make a shovel, and I can wander myself over here, and I can gather my happy self some iron ore. Once our smithy is complete, and we have our clay and our stone to build the anvil, we'll simply go to the other, and then with iron ore, only 10 iron ore is required, and there you have it. You have an iron pot, and when you want to change your cooking hearth, you can simply change type in your house into a cooking hearth with cooking pots so that you work on it, or you can make it into a workplace for your villagers. Making water fields is nice and easy. It is also kind of fun because you can make some effects out of it. So when we go into farming, we get a water field. Bear in mind that with your fields, it doesn't matter if you make a field that is larger than 23. Your workers will never produce more than 23 worth of work at any given field. So to put these down, keep in mind we just needed our clay and our stone. Every single one of these squares counts as 1 clay, 1 stone. You didn't see the cost there because I had to turn it on creative mode at one point so I could get some quick items so I could show some things. But this would have cost me 1 clay and 1 stone per square. Once I'm there, I can now work this on my own, or I can have workers take care of this. If you choose to do the farming on your own, you'll produce a lot of resources. Just remember you have to go out and just do other things while it grows. You do have to do all of the stages of things. Cultivate, plant, water if it's a land field, but not if it's a water field, and fertilize if you want it to grow at the maximum rate. I also have a video about farming that you can check out. Now, while the Forager's workplace may not be the best at producing our herbs or producing our vegetables, something that the Forager's workstation is vital for is getting us edible mushrooms. So for our meals that require a mushroom, and then on my spreadsheet you'll see it labeled as mushroom and sometimes edible mushroom, but honestly it's only ever edible mushrooms that you can cook into your meals. Go figure. The poisonous mushrooms can be used for your healing brews and things like that. So we can access mushrooms every season. You just have to make sure that somebody is gathering the mushroom that relates to the current season you're in. Enoki is convenient because it's every season but summer. Shiitake is convenient because it's every season but winter. It doesn't matter which one of these you gather. You can gain 76 mushrooms per worker at the base level of workload before you start getting worker productivity training. 76 mushrooms goes a long way. So this does pay off, and this is, later in the game, the only thing I use a Forager's workplace for, unless I need extra grass because I don't feel like running around with a kama and chopping it down. Now, as far as workstations are concerned, remember I talked about this idea that you can really cram a lot of workstations into a place. Check this out. This fishing hut has 6 workstations here, and 2 boats, which count as workstations here. I had to move a couple things, so I moved my general storage out here. I could put it up here if I wanted. I moved these over here. You don't even have to build them. You can destroy them afterwards if you like. And this bed over here, I probably should just have destroyed that one, but this is a lot of workstations. We have 8 workstations from one building. That's a lot of fish. Oh, the hunter's hut. How you disappoint me. Well, anyhow, you can also try to cram some workstations into here, but there's really not as much room. So you're going to get less meat, as you already know, and you can't fit as many, so, I don't know. Not really a big thing for me. And if I want to be silly, look at this place. It is a mess. You can't get rid of the herbalist station, but I did get rid of my bed that was in here, and I have crammed as many workstations as I can into here. It doesn't matter if the workers can get to the workstation or not. It's still a place I can assign them to work, and therefore they can still work there. So we can get a lot out of one building. Alright, when we look here, I've got a number of things here that will help out to guide you through what you can use or what may be the best for you at a given time, and you can even use the resource here to track how things work. So on this side, we have all of the different things you can make and all of the requirements for it. If you notice a color in green or a solid color, that means that this is an item that you will consider an additional cost. In other words, if I'm planning on making Nazara sushi, I will need cooked rice, which means it's actually 10 rice, 1 water, and 1 fish, 1 koji mold. That's what that is for. Then the unlock requirements are here. I generally see Nazara sushi just kind of show up as one of the things that's unlocked as you progress through the game, or you find it somewhere and it just kind of unlocks on its own. So I have never seen a requirement for it, so I for some reason it just happens. So then cooking pots are going to be that big deal, right? Like getting to that point is a big deal, and all you need is iron and then the smithy in order to craft it. Then the buildings that you'll require, if you can make it in a house or a tavern, or, well, I mean, really, when it comes down to it, if you can make it in a house, you can always make it in a kitchen or a tavern. So the basic building you need it for is listed, and then kind of the rest flow from there. The cooking pot by the campfire does the same job as the cooking hearth with a pot inside of a house. So, as we look through this, also, when you consider what are my workstations like, I have a workspace here, so that if you want to kind of track how much are people going to produce, then this is how you use it. If you want to switch it to saying, well, I have 3 workers making fish, and all I need is a fishing net, and if I have worker productivity training number 2, gives me a multiplier of 1.1, 10% more, I'm going to get 220 fish from those people working. Now, if I decide not to have them work at 100%, then you can change this here. So this is all meant to help you track down exactly how much you can produce. And again, this whole idea about the hunting shed or the hunting lodge, it's just not the best. So doing the hunting on your own for a while is going to help out. Kind of the big deal, though, is to keep in mind that edible mushrooms, this is your source. Your forager's workplace is your source for mushrooms, and it is really worthwhile. Poisonous mushrooms are worthwhile for medicine, and it's worth considering that. Now, berries can be a viable source of food, and we'll talk about that. Alright, early game, you're kind of stuck, where it's going to be a whole lot of you having just access to that single hut that you built, or the other houses that you built. So you're probably going to see that your best option early game, when you have a cooking pot, is going to be dango, and it's going to be cooked rice still, even though cooked rice is significantly less than it was before. It used to be just like a no-brainer. You went straight to cooked rice. It was 40 food needs. It is now down to 24, and a big cut there. But it does make sense. I mean, cooked rice is the only thing your people eat. It didn't really make a lot of sense. Since you're able to make some of the solid meals in the early part, once you have the cooking pot, solid meals are going to start taking over as the go-to for me. In the spring, since dango can be made with 10 rice, 1 soybean, 1 stick, and it only requires the sunken hearth in the house, that's likely to be the thing that I go for early. Since it's simple, I can make a lot of soybeans from my fields, and I can get a lot of rice from my fields. This will require that you have water fields up and running. Don't think Caillou is worth it, since you're going extra on your cereal. It's not really worth that little bit. Fruit soup? So this is that idea about the berries. If you end up not having a cooking pot and it turns into summertime and you can gather berries, this becomes a useful item. As to how useful it is, I wouldn't go out of my way to say it's going to be great. I do love the idea of miso stew and miso soup. The problem is that miso is very expensive to make, requires sophisticated equipment, which also obviously the miso and the miso stew do. I love that it's 90 food, and the nabe, that, I mean, it's a cool meal. I love the idea of it. It's really expensive to unlock. Unfortunately, it takes the big cooking pot, which is going to be a long wait for us. And it is a lot of resources. As cool as it is, it takes a lot of resources. Now, I don't tend to go I don't tend to use soybeans for making tofu, as by the time you're making tofu with a kitchen and you're telling me I only get 28 food, this is just not worth it. The soybeans could be spent in other places more efficiently. Tempura being unlocked with the kitchen or tavern is going to be the go-to. Like, that's, as soon as you get to a kitchen, as soon as I get to a kitchen in my playthrough, I am making tempura. 75 food for only 1 fish, 6 cereal, and 1 oil is just too easy, too good to pass up. So it is just the go-to. My people are all on tempura as soon as I can. The concern you'll have is that now your villagers are competing for making tempura using oil and using oil for heating. If you don't use oil for heating, well, it's going to be less efficient, but you will still get plenty of tempura. Some of your early meals, if you're in your earliest of early meals, then you are stuck with just using the veggie meals. And as I recall, there used to be a freebie. Like, you used to get the simple veggie meal and the other simple veggie meal with the beans and veggies. But for now it's 25 coins in order to get this one. And it's worth buying because 3 beans compared to 3 herbs and 5 veggies each. That's really good. Beans are way easier to come by, so it is very much worthwhile. Plus, you don't want to compete with your herbs with your foods, since herbs are really useful for your medicines. So I tend to go away from that route. Now, this one is good too, but again, it's a little ways up and you're going to unlock it later, so it's not really worth it. Your solid veggie meals do become useful at some point in time here. So once we get to solid veggie meals, 10 soybeans and 2 koji mold, awesome. Super easy to make, not at all an issue. The berries are always a bit of a concern because berries take a while to get to. You can make a lot of berries with 1 worker, but you're waiting until summertime for that to happen. And again, solid veggie meals, they're good. They have their uses, but I don't like using herbs in my cooking because herbs tend to be more important for your recipes for healing or medicines. And then, of course, the excellent veggie meals. The problem with the excellent meals is that by the time that you're at this point, you have a tavern, and tempura still outcompetes these things, even if it's 71. And I don't like the excellent veggie meals because they're using oil, which I can use to make tempura, and their requirements are so specific that it really gets in the way. Excellent meat meals, you're going to end up getting these meals from, your best meals, you're going to end up getting from quests. So this excellent meal here is from the Wild Hogs quest line. You want this one. You can find that from the bowmaker, who is actually called Fujichi, in Segi. And then he sends you off to do this hunting mission, and in the process of that you get this recipe, which is very worthwhile. 72 food for only 1 meat and 4 rice and 2 edible mushrooms. My goodness, so good. And then, of course, your excellent fish meals. The best one you can get is from Raishin's Wrath, which, again, sorry for mispronouncing that. Only 1 fish being used is the big deal. Yes, it uses herbs, and I'm not a fan of that, but it does use beans, which is great, because you can get a lot of that, and it's easy to come by, and it's only using 1 fish for an excellent meal, and that's really big, because a lot of the excellent meals tend to take 2 proteins, not just 1. And really, when it comes down to it, my progression right now, the way I see it now in my games, my progression is cooked eggs for my character, pretty much the entire game. As soon as I get to cooked rice, I'm still making cooked rice for my villagers, or I'm making dango, depending if I have soybeans or not. And from there, by the time I get to this point, I will get iron right away, and I will just go to Injuro and just grab the iron real quick. and I'll make the smithy, and I'll make the cooking pot, and then I'll jump down straight to solid meals. And then I'm either going to go with my solid fish meals, which I do enjoy because I will have lots of fish at this point, but I don't like using herbs. Or I'll go straight to solid meat meals, which are... Solid meat can be good here with the 1 egg and 6 bean. I tend to use this one because I have extra eggs at the start of the game. And then when I run out of eggs, because I tend to run out pretty quick, I switch that immediately over to something that requires less. And this is okay. But I really think that solid veggie meal, where we can get water, cereal, and, soybeans and koji mold, I really think that's a go-to one. Yeah, honestly, when I had to go back into the game and just double check that this was real, I'm like, wait, only 10 soybeans and 2 koji mold? Like, that's no question. I'm buying this thing immediately. Like, that is exactly what I'm doing, because I have koji mold coming out my ears once we get a few of these rice fields going. And soybeans, oh my goodness, if I get my spring started correctly, I will have had a soybean farmer for 2 or 3 days, depending upon how well I started out. So yeah, there's no question that this is definitely the start right here. 150 coins, no big deal. Sell a bunch of wooden hoes, or sell a bunch of stone adzes, whatever it takes to make the money. I hope this helps you out in your game. Thanks for joining me here. And when you make a copy of the sheets, it'll be in the description for the video. And by all means, make a copy, do whatever you wish with it. I've renamed them now to say the version number that they relate to, and I'll put a letter whether I made a change to it or not. If it's A, then it's the base, very first version for this particular version of the game. So now I've got it set up so that this is for version 1.1.7. So take care, enjoy.